Hello everyone, my name is Saksham Dikshit and this is my channel Pentest Diaries. Today I'll make another video on the same series of Solidity programming series, and this might be a final video. And I thought that this video I have to make it before the concluding email itself, as this concept you have to learn it before itself, but somehow I have missed this, so that was the reason I'm concluding it in this video itself. So this concept is coming in between of the series itself, but as I am just forget about it, that was the reason I prepared this video on the final stage itself. So just go through this video itself at the time when you're seeing it, the whole series itself. So like make sure you, if you're not able to understand these concepts earlier itself, just by this video itself, everything will be clear to you. So in this I'll try to cover what is we are using it everywhere: public, private, internal, external. What exactly is these things, why we are using it, and what's the purpose of it. Everything I try to cover in this video itself, and I hope you are able to understand, like next time when you're using with any address, if you're using it with any variable itself, with any function itself, then at the time it's a bit clear for you to understand like why I'm using public, private, internal, or external. Everything I'll try to cover in this, and this might be a lot of theory part I'll just try to cover in this video itself, and the practical portion is there itself, but not much stuff which you can figure out with that, but you can able to understand that if you're able to understand theory part, and little bit 20%, the remaining portion you can get it covered with the theory part itself. Okay, sorry, with the practical part itself. So 80% is the theory part and 20% is the practical part. We'll try to cover with that itself. So if we're talking about in Solidity, visibility modifier control how functions and state variables can be accessed by other contracts or account. So visibility over here, it means like if we are defining anything to be a public, how exactly it looks like, whether it looks like to the contract itself or not, whether it looks like inside of the function only. So there are lot of things over there itself. Wheresoever we are defining visibility, like we are defining a public, then in that case it's visible to everyone. If it's a private, where exactly it will accessible to, like is it accessible inside the function only, is it visible to the contract, or is it outside also. So everything will just see each and every section for it. So that's coming under the section of the visibility only. So when we are defining a concept of visibility, it means a public, private, internal, or external. These are the four things which is defined over there. So on the basis of that only the stuff to be getting either be projected to everyone or not projected to everyone. Okay, going further with this, there are four visibility levels. First is a public. So function and the state variable declare as public can be accessed from outside the contract as well as from within the contract also, and it's derived contract also. So what it means, like you can, if we are making any state variable or function as a public, then in that case it's accessible from outside the contract as well, and even from the internal, I can say even from the derived base contract, derived contract, everywhere it is accessible, even through the functions also. If we talk about the function, that functions to be getting accessible through that sections also. When you declare a state variable as public, Solidity automatically creates a getter function with the same name as the variable itself. So getter function automatically get created once we're defining any state variable defined as a public itself. Then in that case getter function is automatically created in your smart contract. That's also one other thing which is not visible to you directly. Now talking about the private section. So if the function, or I can say the variable is private visible, then how exactly the things going? The function and the state variable declared as a private can only be accessed from within the contract that define them, and they are not visible to external contracts or account. Okay, so it's bit clear. It is accessible only in the contract itself, and this where exactly it's defined, and it's not visible to any external contract or even to the accounts also. You can't see that directly when you're trying to compile that and deploy it. You can't see that. So if we are defining anything as a private, we can't see that straightforward, but it's accessible inside of the contract only. Okay, now going to the next section, that is an internal one. Function and the state variable declared as an internal can only be accessed from within the contract, and it's derived contract. Okay, so internal means it's access from the contract, and it's from the derived contract. and it's from the derived contract also, they're not visible to the external contract or accounts. So it looks like similar like a private itself, but having a little bit tweak over there itself. It's also accessible to the derived contract also. So that's also one of the thing which is a plus point in case of internal, which is not present in case of private one. Private is accessible only in the contract where it get deployed. Okay. Now going further with that, the last portion is the external one. The function declares as the external can only be accessed from the outside the contract. They cannot be called internally, meaning they cannot be called by a contract itself or its derived contract. Clear? Now if we're talking about the use of it, so definitely we know that it's utilized for the state variable of the function for the visibility for it. Which will tell us about one or who is performing the calls for it, and even there is a lot of things which I just want to make it very clear about it in the context of the gas consumed for it. So if we're talking about the private least, if you're talking about the internal less, if you're talking about the external more, and the public having the highest. So if we're talking about the gas consumption for the variable which you're defining, so it is starting, the private is the lowest one, having a less consumption, least consumption, then the less is coming to the internal, then coming to the external having a more, and the public having the highest one. So wheresoever you're defining as any state variable or function as a public, then in that case a highest amount of gas to be get consumed over there itself. Now talking about the private section in the later phase itself, like with little bit tweak about it. If my contract call itself, that's one of the things. Second, derived contract is my contract, then in that case, in this derived contract call functions or state variables from the parent contract. So if derived contract, if we're talking about with the my contract which is a base contract, then in that case it derived the call and functions from or state variable from a parent contract itself. Now another contract, two contract in one file can use the state variable and the function of another contract. That's also understood in case of private one. And outside word remix ID where button created itself. Okay, so that was also one other thing. Now going further with that, by default the state variable is internal and the function is public. Okay, that's a bit clear about it. By default when you're creating any state variable, this become internal and the function will be public. If we are not defining anything in case of a state variable, then it's considered as an internal, but in case of function, if we are not defining anything, then it give us an error. That's also a bit clear about it. Like by default the state will become internal if you're not defining anything as a visibility, but in case of function, if you're not, then in that case you will definitely get the error over there on the screen when you're trying to make the code for it. Okay, I hope like you were clear about it. Lot of things to be get it consumed for it. Just go through the document which I'll upload it, and even on my blog also I'll provide the details about it so that you can get the details very well about it, like how exactly the things going on and how exactly the visibility is present over there itself. Now we go to the code, seeing that how exactly the things is going on, like how we are defining a public, private, internal or external. Everything we'll just see cover in that video itself. So now we'll go into my code, seeing that how exactly these visibilities working in different stages in different cases itself, how exactly it's varied the output. Okay, let me go to the system now and show you that code itself. So proceeding further with the theory practical part itself. So in case of practical portion, this is the code which we have to use it to see that visibility section for it, how exactly the public, private, internal, external will work. Okay, we'll go ahead further with the first contract which we have defined over here itself. The contract name is contract A. Now going inside of it, we have defined 4 functions. These things I'm just going it faster as we have already covered about it. If I'm preparing this video early before these concluding phase, then in that case definitely I have to explain you each and every section. But I thought that you are already aware about it after seeing so many videos about the same thing, same function. So you might be clear about it, like what other things is getting defined over here itself. Okay, so I'm just run up like with concluding it faster itself so that you will go to the concrete section which I'm looking forward to explain you about it. Okay, so this is, we are defining it function f1, make it public. Okay, so it's definitely be visible to us. Return the value as an integer, and over here return value is 1. Now the another, in this case we are making this as a private. Definitely you can't able, at the time when you're deploying the contract A, then at the time you can't able to see F2. Now F3 is become as the internal itself. That's also not visible to us. Only the external is visible to us. We are returning a value over here as 3, over here as 4, over here as 2. Okay, but we can't see these two functions on our screen itself. We can see only F1 and F4. Now going further with the contract B, where we are inherited contract A, over here itself, as even the F3 is not visible yet, but if I'm defining is this variable bx as a public and get it define the value which we are returning it from the F3, which we call it as a function internal. Even if this is internal, but still as we have defined this variable as a public, then in that case we can able to get the value for the B3. Okay, and rest we can able to see F4 and F1 as this is public and the external, and we are inherited over here in contract B. Now going to the contract C, over here itself, what exactly thing we are doing it? We are defining, I can say that we are defining one of the instance over here itself with a name as object variable. We are defining as object as a variable itself. As an instance, we are creating it, and we are defining a contract A over here as a pointed one. Now from a contract A, what exactly I wanted? I want this to be a variable as a public, and I want that F4 object dot. So this is the instance I've created. I wanted that instance dot F4. So of F4 is from contract A itself. F4 I wanted that to be getted mapped to CX. So whatever the return value we are seeing over here itself, that to be get it assigned to CX. As CX is public, we can able to see that. So that's also one of the things where we can create an instance and then instance map to directly to the function itself, which is present in the contract, another contract, which we are trying to get it mapped over here itself. I think let me compile this code and run it for you so that you can clear about it. So once we proceed further with that, let me try to delete it. I think it's already deployed. Let me deploy it once again. Contract C. You might be having a thought why I'm running too fast, but the thing is that as these things is already clear about it, so this is a small concept, not a big thing, so I don't want to waste more time on it. Okay, so as I already told you about it, in case of contract A, we are having F1, F2, F3, F4, but only public and the external we can able to see. So only F1 and F4 we are able to see as it's external, and this is as a public. Private internal is not visible to us at the time of deployment. So when we try to deploy it, so we can't see that. It's not open for the FD1 itself. Okay, not even for the account, not for the any other contract. So if we try to see that, we can able to return the value. That's clear about it. Now going further with that, going to the contract B. So over here itself, what exactly thing is happening? As we are inherited contract A, then in that case F1 and F4 definitely be over here itself. That we can see that as it's external and a public. Now talking about the BX, we are defining BX, make it as a public unsigned integer, and defining the value to be get it returned from F3 function to get it assigned to BX. So that was the reason when we click on the BX, we are able to see C3. So this is the return value 3. That was the reason it's getting assigned over here itself. Okay. Now going to the last section over here itself, contract C. So over here itself, what exactly thing I'm doing? I'm just create a contract A instance with a variable name object, and then object, and I'm just trying to get it mapped F4, that is a function present in the contract A. Then in that case, make it this CX where I'm just assigning that value, and make it this a public as a unsigned integer public. So whatever the value get assigned to the CX, when you try to click those CX, I can able to see that value. So whatever the return value, I'm getting it from this instance dot F4. F4 is a function present in the contract A. I'll just get it assigned to the CX. As CX is a public, we can able to see that value. So that was the reason I can able to see it's 4. Okay. So I hope you're able to understand the whole concept behind it. What actually is public, private, internal, external, everything about it. I hope like you're able to understand those things. It might be the thing like after covering everything about it, I'm just telling you these things at the end itself, but it might be that's my fault. I have to conclude these things to be get it earlier itself, so that at the time when we are using it at multiple places, you are able to understand those things. But never mind, like if you even have missed it, but at least I'll just conclude at the time of the conclusion itself. I've included that so that you are able to understand. If anyone asks you about it, what exactly the difference between all these visibility itself, so at least you are able to understand what exactly the difference between it. Okay. So I think this is also a final video for this series. I'm not making any more video on the Solidity itself. In future aspects, if anything in the modification required, I'll definitely try to add up. But till then, this series is concluding. This is a final video for this series itself. I'll just start the new series soon with a new topic for it, not in a blockchain section for it, and the section I'm planning for it. So just wait for some time itself. I'll try to make that content and populate faster to you. I have already prepared a lot of content on that section for it, but to shoot and to upload that section for it, so it will take a time for it. But soon the new concept will be getting introduced after the conclusion of this series. So this is the final video for it. Okay. So if you like this video, please subscribe my channel, and if you like to provide some feedback, if you want something like few comments which I'm getting it, one person have sent it to me on LinkedIn, and that person asked me about few things which I have already noted down. I just try to make the content for that also, and then I'll try to make the content separately. I'm making a playlist for that section for it. It's not the thing which I just get included in this. This is just a beginner and intermediate level course itself. So that thing I'll just try to get it included, and then I'll prepare separate playlist for that section for it, that is ERC20. That person is asking for it. I'll definitely make the content on it and publish in a separate playlist so that you can get the details about it, not having a disturbance in the same series itself. I don't want like whosoever the person is a beginner itself, if that person is trying to understand that and lot of concept on the top of it, it's creating a problem for that person to understand the concept very well. So it's easy for the person to start with the beginner and go to the intermediate level, and once they are expert, they are able to understand the code and everything about it. Then if I'll try to make the advanced level or intermediate plus level type of content, the person can able to understand. So I'm not including those type of concepts over here in this series itself. That was a separate playlist. I'll prepare it soon, and this is the final one itself. So thank you so much once again. Take care. Bye bye.